We now know it's going to be the Rams. I don't know about you, but I was somewhat rooting for the Bears, not passionately rooting for the Bears, because if you get to the NFC Championship game, you are going to end up playing a really good team, and sometimes it can be dangerous to say I want to play these guys. And if the Bears had beaten the Rams, they would have come to Seattle with a lot of energy. You could see what Caleb Williams was doing at the end of that game. It would have meant that this would have been yet another game where the Bears would have pulled magic out of the bag right at the end of the contest to ultimately set themselves up for victory. And this would have been like the talk of today would have been that fourth down throw at the end and how good that throw was. Look, it's not the best coverage. It's not the best defensive work by the Rams, but to be sort of running backwards as far as he was and then to kind of stop as he is retreating and then throw it with that kind of velocity, that is pretty special. That is an unbelievable throw from Caleb Williams. And that was everyone would have been talking about. And you may well have, look, the nervousness amongst this fan base, I've certainly felt it because I've been in that place myself. I was very nervous going into the Niners game, and you kind of think afterwards it's 41-6. What was all the worrying about? But going into that game, I was nervous. And this week would have been nervous if it was the Bears, because you would have just think, are they a team of destiny? Are they just destined to get through this run and beat you in Seattle and get to a Super Bowl? There would have also been that thought in my head that maybe they're this year's Commanders. They're a team that, against the odds, with a good young quarterback, get through to the NFC Championship game and then just get found out. And that, I suppose, is why I was somewhat rooting for the Bears. But they lost and the Rams won. I do think you have to give the Rams credit. I've seen somebody saying that Stafford has been bums in the live chat. And look, keep those messages coming in. Talk amongst yourselves, send super chats in, like the video if you haven't already, and subscribe, because we're going to have a lot more videos between now and hopefully the Super Bowl if the Seahawks get there. The Rams are playing in very difficult conditions. They had to travel across the country again as they did the prior week. They are not used to playing in the cold and the snow like the Chicago Bears are. And they haven't been playing that well recently. So I think any kind of win was a great win for the Rams. And were they a bit lucky? Yeah. Because in overtime, they punt the ball away. The Bears are driving, only needing a field goal to win. They had moved their way quite methodically and nicely to midfield. There was absolutely no reason at that point to be throwing it downfield and throwing an interception like Caleb Williams did. In fact, when he dropped back to throw that pass on the interception, which was the last time he touched the football, he could have set off and run and probably gained about 15 yards and put them into field goal range at that point, and they would have had a first down as well. He chose not to do that. He threw a pass towards DJ Moore, who just slouched through his route. But having seen him run the route that badly, it makes you think, why did the quarterback throw it there? Like, what did he see from that? Like, he was clearly had coverage on him because he was not running full speed through that. Like, there was no point when DJ Moore was the man open and running onto that pass. So it was a mess. And I don't know why Ben Johnson was making that kind of passes, those kind of plays either, because as soon as the Rams got the football, what did they do? They moved into sort of field goal range. They took a couple of safe deep shots and then kicked the field goal and they won. That's what the Bears probably should have been doing, except in their case, maybe not even with the deep shots, just put it into range for the field goal and then get yourself off to Seattle. So I think the Rams had a little bit of fortune, but they got the job done. And if Seattle had played that kind of a game and had got the job done, we'd all be sat here saying it doesn't matter how badly they played. They just had to get the victory. They did it. They got through, and they're into the final game of the NFC. So I do think we have to give the Rams some respect and some credit. It is going to be a really tough game, this one. It's the number one DVOA team against the number two DVOA team. Is it Aaron Schatz who runs DVOA? He sort of said this is the most, what's the way that he put it? Like the best matchup ever in the NFC playoffs. Like they've never had two teams with this much power in terms of DVOA playing each other in the postseason. And they are the best two teams in the NFL, I think. I don't think watching the Patriots yesterday, as well as they've played this year, they're on this level. And the Broncos are clearly a very well-coached team. And they've lost their quarterback now. So that has to have some of an impact. I kind of half expect the Broncos to win that game against the Patriots, and I kind of think that Sean Payton will be able to get them ready to go. So I would not be surprised there. So I do think that the best two teams are playing in the NFC Championship game in the NFL this year, and it could go either way. I am scared of this kind of matchup, just purely based on what we saw a few weeks ago. The Rams came to Seattle. The Seahawks had a screen pass that set up an early touchdown, and things were great there. And then the Rams took over the game. They forced a couple of interceptions. They had, on the day, and I'd accept that this includes overtime, but so does Seattle's total of 415 yards. The Rams ran 88 plays in that game. They had 26 first downs and 581 total yards. Clearly, Mike McDonald has got some coaching formula which really prevents Kyle Shanahan from excelling against him. And for Kyle Shanahan to only get 6 and 3 points in the last two games, and bear in mind, they only got 17 in week one when everybody was healthy, and Seattle very generously gave up some sloppy plays in that game. McDonald coming up against Shanahan, he's surprisingly got the upper hand there. I'm not surprising because of any lack of talent on Mike McDonald's behalf. It's just that Kyle Shanahan's a heck of a coach. And in multiple games now, he's not been able to find a solution to what Seattle has done to stymie his offense. Sean McVay somehow seems to have found a way to do that. And in the first game, Seattle did shut down the Rams and prevented them. But the Rams are always playing from an advantage. They were always ahead in the game from very early on. They had a productive first drive. They got turnover on downs. They got the ball back. They scored. It's a bit like Seattle against the Niners in week 18. They managed to extend their lead and held on to it. And they could have lost that game. They weren't moving the ball in the second half. But when you are playing from ahead, as perhaps we've seen in these two key Rams games against the Bears and against the Seahawks in week 16, for whatever reason, when Sean McVay's teams get ahead, they go into the shell a little bit. Like, look at last night. When McVay needed a first down to ice the game, he ran the ball and punted it away and gave the Bears a chance to win. When they came out at overtime, he felt conservative. Like, where had his spine gone? And then, having sort of lived through those 2 extra lives that he was given by the Bears, he eventually was a bit more aggressive and used his quarterback, his main weapon, and they got the job done. And I think in that first game against LA, he was a bit too conservative when they were ahead. I think in week 16, when they were 2 scores ahead, they were too conservative. He then, when it's level and it goes into overtime, started taking a few more shots, got a very quick, long touchdown, and it was only down to Sam Darnold and Seattle's offense that they were able to stop that being the winning score. So when he is playing aggressively, Seattle has struggled. And it's not just Stafford, who has probably not played his best football since that game. It's the fact that you just seem to, if you throw it in the general direction of Puka Nacua, he comes down with the football every time. Every time. It's pretty incredible what he is able to do. So how do you stop that? At one point, you can keep a lid on him, and then he'll make a play. And it doesn't necessarily have to be like a 75-yard touchdown. It can be a key third down like yesterday. Like the Bears blitzing on Nakua's side, leaving him open, throw it in behind. It's easy. Like, he will have an impact on the game at some point. I think Chris Collinsworth was saying yesterday that per PFF system, Puka Nacua has been the best player in the NFL this year. And I have to say, the eye test does back that up. Like, he has just consistently been brilliant throughout the whole season. And I don't know how you stop that. And if you sort of go all out to stop Puka Nacua, your tight ends are going to, their tight ends are going to cause problems. They may go to the running game. I don't think Devontae Adams is anywhere near full health. But could he be a little bit healthier again? I mean, he left the game at one point yesterday. He has not been the same since he had this hamstring injury. But is he going to be that just healthy enough next week so that if you do try and blanket Nacua a little bit or find a way to solve that problem, then do you leave Devontae Adams with some opportunities? Because in that last game against the Seahawks, the Rams managed to get Puka Nacua 12 catches for 225 yards and 2 touchdowns. 225 yards. 12 receptions on 16 targets. That's insane. And how you stop that, I don't know. Now, the other thing is the Rams' defense has not looked that great recently. Their secondary and their second level defense in particular has not looked that great. I thought the defensive line was a lot better yesterday because on those sort of fourth down runs, third down runs, they were very aggressive. They ID'd it. Jared Verse playing well, interior line playing well to stop some of those runs when Chicago were going for it on short yardage situations. And they did a very good job there. But clearly there were opportunities in the secondary and mistakes made in the secondary, which enabled the Bears to move the ball at times as well. And we saw that against the Panthers and we saw issues against the Falcons. The defense has not been that great. However, again, this is part of my somewhat concern for this game is that even though they have struggled against the Panthers and the Falcons and a bit against the Bears, although they were better yesterday, they seem to do well against the Seahawks. And not at the end of the game last time, but certainly for 3 quarters, they did a very good job putting a lid on the Seahawks. They've intercepted Sam Darnold 6 times in 2 games, which is a big chunk of the interceptions he's had all year. And are they doing something with coverages? Have they got into his head a little bit? Is there still a bit of that out there? I don't know. But they have done a very, very good job against the Seahawks and against Sam Darnold. So even if they are not great, even if they have weaknesses, is it going to be easy to attack them? And then you have the bad news today, which is that Zach Charbonnet is out for the season. That is frustrating because I think that 2-headed monster was really starting to look amazing, wasn't it? You know, Ken Walker, Zach Charbonnet were excellent. I think the good news is that when the last time the 2 teams met, Zach Charbonnet was fairly ineffectual. He had just, I think, 9 runs for 32 yards and a touchdown. Kenneth Walker had 100 yards on 11 carries. That does include a 55-yard touchdown, but he had 11 carries for 100 yards, a touchdown, and he also added 64 receiving yards and 3 catches. So Ken Walker was the better player between the two, not the most impactful player anyway, between the 2 teams. So even though, like when I looked at the stats earlier, if Zach Charbonnet had been the main back in that game, you're like, but he wasn't. It was Ken Walker. So that is a good news story. I can see somebody has already put in the comments that this is not helping anxiety. And I appreciate that. I'm sorry. I will talk about some positive things as well. It's just that there are things that worry me about the Rams, apart from the fact they are just generally really good. They have a great head coach, a very good, potentially MVP caliber quarterback. One of the best players in the NFL this season in Nacua. You know, they're a difficult team to beat, but the Seahawks have shown a level of toughness. They have shown that maybe they're rounding into their best form at the right time, which is now, which is the last few weeks. You know, they're on a long unbeaten run. They have not struggled against the Panthers like the Rams did. They did not struggle against the Falcons like the Rams did, at least in the second half. They hammered the 49ers. Like, I would have been interested to see what a 49ers-Rams game would have looked like at this time of year with the injuries. Would the Rams have done that? Maybe. Or would it have been a closer game? Because the Niners beat the Eagles last week, and it was a good, tough, physical game between 2 well-matched sides that could have gone either way. Would the Rams and Niners have been like that? Maybe. And there was just something about the way Seattle played on Saturday, which does give you some confidence. It wasn't perfect in the first half. They had to work through some things, but they did. Sam Darnold didn't turn the ball over. They're running the ball very well. The pass rush got going in the second half. There were obviously a lot of positives there with that. So can they finish the job in terms of getting to the Super Bowl? That's obviously not completely finishing the job because you would like to go and win the Super Bowl, but can they do it? I think the other thing that's maybe making it difficult for me this week, and I'll admit that this is how my mindset is. Like, I just want to be honest with you. If you'd have said to me at the start of the season, the Seahawks are going to get to the NFC Championship game, I'd have been really stoked by that. I would have seen that as a huge just bonus. But now that they're here, And now that I know the teams that are going to be waiting for them in the Super Bowl are the Broncos with their backup quarterback or the New England Patriots, it just feels like such an amazing opportunity to go and do something special. But you've got to beat the Rams to enable to do it. And it will be, if you lose to the Rams, they'll see this. I suspect they will go on and win the Super Bowl. So it's an amazing opportunity to go and do something special here. And if you don't, the Rams are probably going to do it. I don't want to miss out on that. Delighted to say that Jeff is here and ready to join us. Jeff, how are you?
I'm all right. I just got a crazy phone call out of nowhere. I got an offer on my house, but
oh wow! So, congratulations!
We weren't even having it for sale, so that came out of nowhere. I had to deal with that. I was scrambling. I don't think we're even going to take it, but
dramatic day.
Dramatic out of nowhere.
Yeah. Well, we'll do a quick half an hour. So I've just been sort of talking about, I've kind of worried a lot of people in the chat because I've been talking about all of the things that, the reasons why I was rooting for the Bears, Jeff, and was rooting for the Bears in a way that I wasn't shouting and screaming and desperate for the Bears to win. It wasn't like that at all. I just had a mild preference for the Bears to win. Like that's how I describe it. And when the Rams won, I was not particularly gutted or anything. It was just like, okay, you are going to play, a top team. The Seahawks and the Rams per DVOA are the top two teams in the NFL. And rather than playing the 16th best team per DVOA, you're playing the second best team. So obviously it would have been advantageous to play the 16th team. The Rams got a whole bunch of yards against Seattle in week 16. They should have won that game. Puka Nacua is looking unstoppable still. And, it's a concerning opponent, Jeff. But there's also a lot to be happy about with the way the Seahawks have played. Like they're unbelievable on Saturday, obviously, and for the last few weeks now been excellent. So just sort of give me a thought on where you are with the Seahawks as we look ahead to this biggest game the Seahawks have had since that Super Bowl.
Yeah, I was pretty bummed yesterday, not only because I did not want to play the Rams. I thought the Bears should have won, and I think the Bears blew it. And the Rams played as bad as a game on offense as we've seen from them really all season. They had basically until overtime, they had two good drives the entire game. And the Bears got stopped on 3 or 4 short yardage plays. And some of them, they should have taken the points. So by my calculation, they left anywhere from 3 to 14 points on the board in the first half. If they score there, maybe the game's different, but I think they win the game in regulation. Or if Rome Odunze catches the ball. But I thought Ben Johnson, and I saw you tweeting this yesterday, I thought he was terrible yesterday. And I thought McVay was terrible too. That was the worst offensive performance Stafford's had, and the weather was bad. And with their short yardage defense that won the game. And then in overtime, they throw the interception, and people are on DJ Moore, and I get that. But Caleb Williams has a massive running lane on the left side there, and they need 15 yards to get into field goal range. And the whole time I'm thinking in my head, like, the Rams are going to win this. I know it's going to happen. And then when they get to the 50 with only a field goal, I'm like, I started to believe in the Bears. And then they crushed my spirit. And so I felt the Seahawks had probably, like, watching the Bears yesterday, they played a lot better defensively than I thought they were capable of. But I just don't think they would have been ready for that environment in Seattle. I think I would have given the Seahawks probably an 85 to 90% chance of beating the Bears in that game. I think with the Rams, I'm probably closer to 50%, maybe 55. So it felt like the Seahawks odds dropped like 30 to 40%. And that was hard to swallow because it wasn't a game where like the Rams looked amazing and the Bears were just better. The Rams were pretty beatable, and they've been beatable, but I don't know if that carries over. And I get nervous that a team like that keeps winning in these ways when they're not playing well. Because what happens when they do play well, and they did last time for 3 quarters against Seattle, they make me a lot more nervous. I think the Seahawks and the Rams have been the 2 best teams in the league for most of the season. And while the Rams haven't played well for a month, we know what they're capable of. I would have felt great going into the Bears matchup. I know Caleb Williams can do some magical stuff, and the team has a good play caller for the most part, other than 4th downs, and good offensive line, good defense yesterday, but it just feels like a massive gap between the Rams and the Bears for me.
And quickly on the Bears, I think if I was a Bears fan today, I'd be hoping that Ben Johnson's going to learn from that. Like, not every game can be the same. This is the biggest problem I have with Greg Olson's analysis, Jeff, is that he treats every single football game like it's the same. Like, if you just do the same things every single week, like in this scenario, you should go for it. in this scenario, you should this kind of play. Never run on 2nd and 10. All of these things that the analytics crew will tell you. But games of football are not like that. You can't play a game of football on a spreadsheet. And when you look at the weather conditions and the situation, and that you have a young team and you don't have a lot of playoff experience, and you have a really good first drive there, Jeff, and you have a chance to get some reward for it, kick a field goal, put your defense out there. Chris Sims made this point earlier when I was listening to him. He said the mindset on your defense as they're going out onto the field for the first time in that game yesterday. If you kick a field goal, it kicks off. The defense have got the helmets ready. They're like, right, come on, we've got a lead, 3-0, good start. Let's get out there and kick some ass. But instead, you have the turnover, and they're immediately sort of thinking, oh, crap, we've got to get out there. And all of a sudden, you're going out there, and it's 0-0, and the mentality's different. And the Rams marched down the field and scored a touchdown. We'll never know whether the sort of quick flip of going for it, it's turned over, and then the Rams scoring was impacted by the decision to go for it and not getting it. But there's a chance that was happening there. And in a game where it was 17-10, like it was almost like Ben Johnson was expecting it to be 38-35. We need to score touchdowns every time we've got the football. But when you sort of sat there and he's on the, it was like, there was like 3 minutes left, Jeff, and he's going for it on 4th down. 3 runs, by the way, and then a really basic pass over the middle. What happened to the guy who was the most creative red zone guy with the Detroit Lions? And you think in that situation there, if you'd have maybe just kicked your field goals, this might be 17-16 instead. And then all you have to do is kill a bit of clock, kick the field goal, and then hope your defense can finish the game. Like it's this idea that you have to treat every game the same. We're always going to be aggressive. And then here's the thing, here's the big contradiction. Having been aggressive all the way through the game, when it came to the point to be as aggressive as you possibly be, you go for the 2 points, you kick the field goal. You kick the extra point to take it into overtime instead. Jeff, there is an infectious disease across the NFL right now with some coaches who have convinced themselves they have to do things a certain way. But even during games, they're not being consistent with it. And it is a major relief that the Seahawks don't have a coaching setup that dabble in any of this kind of stuff. We'd all like to see them do the barnyard maybe a little bit more when it's 40 yards out and it's 4th and inches or something like that. But the Seahawks are not being, so far, I keep doing this, touch wood, knock on wood. They haven't done anything that ridiculous in the big games that's made you scratch your head. There are too many coaches like Ben Johnson that are just getting this so wrong.
Yeah, and you got to understand, Ben, you don't have the Lions offensive line with Penei Sewell and Frank Ragnow and Taylor Decker. You have a good offensive line with Chicago, but they're out their left tackle yesterday. And the one thing the Rams are really good at is short yardage run defense. They're not good at a lot of things on defense. And the weakness is their cornerbacks. And so 3 of those times we mentioned short yardage, even if you are going to go for it, you ran it right into the teeth of Puna Ford and Jared Verse and Kobe Turner. Like, that's the one thing they're good at. We saw it. I made a joke yesterday on Twitter. Felt like it was Ryan Grubb yesterday. Remember, we lost that Rams game because we couldn't get 1 yard on them, running directly into the teeth of their defense. And they got Caleb Williams who can go on the run. So, yeah, I was very frustrated with Ben Johnson yesterday. I thought early in the game, you take, like right after Roma Dunze drops, which should have been a touchdown, you kind of cut your losses. At that point, you take the points. And yeah, you mentioned it right at the end. There's that 4th and goal right at the 3-yard line where they did that idiotic pass into 2 defenders. And they're running short yardage plays with DeAndre Swift down on that drive instead of Kyle Monange, who was having a really good game. That made no sense to me. And there was one where he almost leaped over the guy, which was pretty cool. But why are you running a power run with DeAndre Swift at the goal line instead of the rookie back, who's a power back? And so I'm with you. Like, I think the Greg Olsen thing is just kind of the way the NFL's thinking. And look, the Seahawks overthought themselves in week 18, where they're 1st and goal from their 1, and they try to pass the ball. They're supposed to pass into the flat and end up getting a 12-yard sack and screw up the whole drive and then end up going for it on 4th. Sometimes there's nothing wrong with doing the obvious thing. Run the ball at the 1-yard line. You don't need to run the ball right into the teeth of the defense if you're 3rd and 1 every time. But I thought Ben Johnson, if he just took those field goals, he probably win the game in regulation. I'm almost certain of it, because the whole game they were spent chasing points that they ended up giving up. And at halftime, the Rams had 1 good drive. They should have been up anywhere from 6 to 14 points. And then they left the game up for the Rams, who had that drive to take the lead, and that was really all they needed. And then it took a fluke play from Caleb Williams, which should have never needed to happen. And so I was very frustrated with Ben Johnson. I don't think I found you. I saw you were doing. I saw Brock Eward was tweeting it, but I didn't find that was like the national take on the game, and I was perplexed because, look, if the Rams just outplayed them and a couple of things went wrong, then I get it. Like you're chasing but I think it was Sheil Kapadia that put out a list of opportunities the Bears wasted. There was 5 or 6. It wasn't just like, okay, it was 3rd and 1, 4th and 1, basic stuff. And like the one time they did a Caleb Williams sneak or tush push worked pretty well. And they didn't go to that the rest of the game. The Rams, they didn't really have any opportunities they wasted. They made the most with what they had, and it was a pretty shitty game plan. And I thought Ben was bad. And yeah, I'm with you. Like there's certain games where that makes sense. If you're a big underdog or you have nothing to play for, or you don't trust your defense. The Bears defense played excellent for most. Dennis Allen had a great game. And I thought they overthought it, and I thought they choked.
So looking at the Seahawks now that they play the Rams, Jeff,
yeah,
here's what I think is the key to this game. I think and it's going to sound really obvious, this, and really basic, and as if I've not given this much thought, but I think it is the key to everything. Play a clean football game against the Rams. That's the one thing Mike Macdonald's Seahawks have not been able to do, is play a clean game of football against the Rams. If you look at last season, the Geno pick six, the sort of the mistakes that cost Seattle a chance to win that game, including big pass plays downfield, by the way. It's not just like the quarterback throwing interceptions. It's your defense switching off, giving up big plays, because Shanahan has not really found ways to do that against Mike Macdonald. He's not been able to find that, okay, we're going to keep going, persevering, bang, huge play, like massive explosive play downfield. But Sean McVay had that last season in Seattle. He had it in the game, obviously, that we've just watched in Week 16, the huge pass play to Puka Nacua in overtime, and one or two other plays as well. He's been able to sort of wait it out, and then find those big moments. So they're mistakes as much as anything else. But as I mentioned, Geno Smith, horrendous turnover. The 4 turnovers in the game in LA. The 2 interceptions in Week 16. The one thing the Seahawks haven't been able to do is just play a normal game of football where you play the percentages, you play that player football, you do what the Bears weren't doing yesterday. You just say, well, we're going to tick along here. We're going to outlast the Rams. And I've got a feeling, Jeff, that if the Seahawks can do that here and just manage things and keep it clean, that they might be able to just be better than the Rams on the day, because Seattle's defense is better. Rams have a better quarterback, but Stafford he doesn't look like he did a few weeks ago, let's just say. I don't want those to be the famous last words. So you've got iron sharpening iron there. Great defense against great quarterback. Seattle's offense, for me, Jeff, has sufficiently improved in the last couple of games to think you can have some success against the Rams defense, which is not a strength at the moment. So that could be the difference. Our great defense just doing enough to limit Matt Stafford, who will make his plays and will get his points. But the advantage that Seattle has is offense versus defense on the other side and special teams. So if you play clean football, you should be able to get the job done here, even if it's a close game. But are they capable of that, Jeff? Can your quarterback not turn the ball over? Can you avoid giving up another 500 yards on offense, nearly 600 in the last game? That's going to be the key.
Yeah, and it's been a really strange set of matchups between these two teams, because the first game, the Seahawks defense was the dominant unit of the game. I know the Rams had 4 turnovers, but Matt Stafford had one of his least productive groups, and he had his worst season. He had his worst game by far of the season, and the time of possession, like everything, advanced numbers other than those 4 turnovers, suggested the Seahawks should have dominated that game. And if Darnold threw 2 interceptions instead of 4, they probably would have, and they lost. Then the Rams come into Seattle. They dominated on offense. The Seahawks had, other than Tampa, even with Tampa, I think their worst game of the year. And they lost. So it's been like the exact opposite is what should happen. And you're right. The Seahawks have not played anything close to a clean game. They played great defensively in the first game. And outside of those 4 throws, were pretty good on offense. But those 4 throws were so bad, it lost the game. And there was 2 quarters in the last game where the offense was just disastrous, and the defense really had one good quarter against that Rams team, and it was the 4th quarter, which really brought them back into the game. So they need to play a cleaner game. I know the Rams have not played well in a month, really since that Seattle game. They've kind of lost themselves, but I don't think we want to count them out. I know they're going to get up for this game. They're going to be ready. But yeah, the team that's been giving Darnold the most trouble has been Chris Shula and the Rams. The first game, they did some stuff to him that really sped up his timing. And the second game, they tricked him with coverages and disguise, and both interceptions were him misreading what the defense was doing. So the big thing is they've been running the ball far better, and the offensive line has played far better. And if they can make the game easier on the offense and not get into a Darnold dropback situation, we saw what happened on Saturday when they blew them out so much the quarterback didn't need to do much. But I think you're right. I think the clean game on both offensive and defense. Don't put too much on Darnold, who's hurt. We're out one running back already this week. Not the best start to the week. I think that gives Seattle a pretty good shot. But you're right. We haven't seen it from Darnold against the Rams. And we really haven't seen this team play a clean, like even last year, the Seahawks were so good for 90% of that game. And then they had a quarter of some of the most infuriating meltdowns. And ultimately, it was kind of like the Bears game last night, but almost more infuriating. So the Rams have been doing this to other teams for a while, and the Rams have the best fumble luck and interception luck I've ever seen on a team.
Oh, last night.
2 fumbles last night and a couple interceptions. Stafford has had this last year, too, at the end of the year, where he's throwing picks right to the Niners and right to the Cardinals. They dropped every one of them. And so the Rams, it's a tough out because not only you have to play clean, they give you mistakes sometimes, and they seem to get away with it. So, yeah, this is a huge game for McDonald. They've looked, when all 3 things are going, even though they only won 13-3, that looked like a 27-3 game. So the last 2 Niners games, and maybe that just says more about the Niners, but this is what happens when all 3 are clicking at once. The Seahawks are going to win. But we haven't seen anything close to that in either of the 2 games. And I'm not saying they need to play like that to win, but they got to be a lot cleaner on both sides of the ball.
One of the things I've been thinking about, Jeff, is how would I feel about the Seahawks if I wasn't a Seahawks fan? Because I've watched all the playoff games, and no one's looked as good as Seattle did on Saturday. Obviously, they won 41-6. And they are, tough, physical team, extremely balanced. What I would be thinking if I was a Pats fan, for example, or a Broncos fan would be like, crap, if we're playing them in the Super Bowl, that's going to be really difficult. And I would be admiring the coaches, and I would see that Clint Kubiak's getting interviews. I would think the Seahawks are loaded, and I would expect them to win this game and possibly the Super Bowl. But I'm a Seahawks fan, so I'm not allowed to think that. I have to be honest, Jeff. I don't think last week was good for my health. Like I spent the whole week worrying that they were going to blow it.
Dude, that was a mess.
It was the fear of one losing to the 49ers, which I didn't want to happen for obvious reasons because it's the Niners, but also sort of seeing this great opportunity emerge, like totally unexpectedly, whereby you don't see any real reason. When the Seahawks were like a game behind the Rams and in the 5th seed, you kind of think, we're having a good season. I'm enjoying this. This is better. We're on the right track. Oh, now we're the number 1 seed. And you think, I have to adjust my expectations now. Like you're 2 home games away from the Super Bowl, and then you see that what's happening, and you see that it ain't going to be Patrick Mahomes waiting for you if you win on Sunday. It's going to be Jarrett Stidham or Drake May, who's very good, but the Patriots are who the Patriots are. They had the easiest strength of schedule this year. Yeah. And even their playoff games that they've had so far, the Chargers and the Texans have been awful, and they're in the AFC Championship. I think the Broncos might beat them next week. So you've got a chance to potentially, you might kick off next week knowing you'll be facing Jarrett Stidham in the Super Bowl the following week, which you can't take for granted. Nick Foles and everything like that, I get it. But that is such an unbelievable opportunity, Jeff. And I'm sat here now, it's 9:50. So I'm doing this stream, and then I'm doing a UK Seahawks stream at 10 o'clock in 10 minutes, okay? And I know that I'm going to do this. I'm going to say I'm going to bed because I've not really slept for days. And I feel a bit ill. I know I'm not going to be able to sleep. And it's going to be like this all week, Jeff, because I'm antsy about missing out on this now. I want it so bad. Like, I want to see this team back in the Super Bowl. I feel like it's such an amazing opportunity to do it. And if they don't do it, we're going to have to probably watch the Rams win the Super Bowl.
I know.
It's really tough. And listen, it's like a drug, isn't it? Like you want it. But for me, the only thing, maybe this is a bit sad on my behalf, Jeff. The only thing I really badly want in life is for my sports teams to succeed. It just gives me so much joy. And in this instance, it's England in the World Cup this year, and it's the Seahawks. And if the Seahawks could just get there again, man, it would be so good. I would enjoy the heck out of the next 2 weeks. But they've got to win on Sunday. And Sunday feels like it's an age away.
I know. And I got to a place like I haven't been, I don't know the last time I was like this, but Saturday during the day in the morning, I was a mess. And I think me and you were talking when the Darnold stuff came out, and my wife was like looking at me. It's like, what's wrong with you? I was so nervous about blowing that game. And when it looks absolutely comical considering they won 41-6, and she was kind of laughing. She's like, I don't get it. Why were you? And it was the thought of losing as the number 1 seed to the 49ers, who's my least favorite team, least favorite fan base, most annoying writers. The thought of blowing it to them was I was so nervous and so fearful of that. Like if we played Green Bay and lost, that would have sucked, but I wouldn't have had that fear going into the game. This is different now because like you said, the opportunity is just, you're there. You're 1 win at home away from being in the Super Bowl, and the lineup on the other side is like the Bills losing a game they definitely should have won with that catch. And now Jared Stidham's out, and Patriots have not played well. I know they keep winning, but they've played against the Chargers with no bodies left, and the Texans were atrocious on offense yesterday, and we're without Nico Collins. They didn't look great either. So like it's all sitting right there, and we're a minute away from playing the Bears, who just they're a young team. They haven't like the whole thing was just teeing up. And look, I know I'm with you. Like it's going to be so hard to swallow if the Rams win, because I'm with you. If they win, they're probably winning the Super Bowl. And which is so annoying because they could have easily lost to Carolina. And then we're going to have to hear about this magical Rams run. And I don't know if I'll get as nervous as last week, because I just think the 49ers bring out some other crazy in me. But let me set this straight. I don't like the Rams. I've never liked the Rams. I find the coverage of them obnoxious. I find that no one's ever willing to criticize them. Like you'll notice Sean McVay, if they lost yesterday, I wonder what the takes would have been on him. I doubt people would have blamed him the way they should have. And the media's in LA. Some of the writers, if you ever listen to like Peter Schrager, like the way he talks about the Rams is the most infuriating thing in the world.
He's texting Sean McVay, right? He wants you to know that he's friends with Sean McVay. Every single day that he's on the TV, Jeff,
and if I
he's letting you know he knows Sean
Matt
McVay.
Stafford and McVay and how good the defense is, like I'm going to be sick. So look, yeah, like you said, like when they were going to be the 5th seed, I'm like, this has been a really fun season. They've started to establish their defense. Like it was able to rationalize if they end up losing, like they have a Darnold's number. The whole thing kind of made sense. But now the Rams have played like shit, and the whole opportunity's on the table. And then it's hard not to have that feeling in your stomach. They're going to have a good game soon. And it's making me terrified. And I don't like this team. I don't want to listen to 2 weeks of Rams talk against Jared Stidham or Drake May. And I don't think those teams can beat the Rams. And so the Seahawks are this close. And I'm not close to the nervousness I was about the Niners just because of, but I think as we get closer to Sunday, I'm going to be a wreck. And I did not get a lot of sleep last weekend. Friday night was atrocious. I slept like 2 hours. And so, and the media is going to be just glazing the Rams all week in America. And it's not warranted. Certainly not warranted. The Seahawks should be getting, but like you saw the point spread came out. It opened up -1.5 and moved to 2.5. It's not like it's a toss-up game. And so we've seen what happened in 2 games. They've been super close. I think the idea that the Seahawks might win easy is crazy.
The only thing I'm thinking, Jeff, is, and this is obviously slanted positively because I want to believe this to be the case, that maybe it's not the worst thing in the world that the Rams got. I'll name the exact amount of yards so that I can be totally accurate with this. That the Rams got 581 total yards against this defense last time. Because you can have a look at that and you can say, well, they're not going to do this again because we'll take that away. And I'm guessing that Sean McVay will have other sort of questions, and he'll be able to ask different things of this defense. But you would just hope that maybe having that game last time will help the Seahawks. And the other thing is that, Jeff, they must have expected in a part that they were going to play them in the divisional round.
Yeah.
So they might have spent a bit of time already sort of game planning for this. And then they just pivoted to the Niners, who they'd already been game planning for in their previous game. And now they could just quickly revert back to Rams game plan and ideas. Whereas the Rams will have focused completely on the Bears last weekend and the Panthers the week before. And they've played an extra game than you have. I know that we've got a couple of injuries. So that's, I suppose, the positive slant. I really appreciate everybody saying it's not worth getting stressed and all of it. But
I agree. I wish it wasn't like that.
I know, but there's nothing you can say. Like, it's happening.
I wonder that all the time. Like, why people are dealing with real problems, and I'm stressing my mind over this football team in Seattle. Like, I live in Toronto, you live in England. Like,
it's ridiculous. But
it's ridiculous. But I'm sorry. That's why we're on the show. Like,
yeah, and I wouldn't have it any other way. I just don't. I want to enjoy it, Jeff. But I kind of think I'm destined to enjoy it more after the fact if they can win, because
I know there's like a part of me that's like I want to like go to a movie and then come out and just look at the score just so I can don't have to stress through that. But like there's no way I'll ever do that. It's way too psychopathic. But
well, I'm gonna let you go because I've got to do this other stream. But thank you for jumping on.
Sorry for the delay.
No problem. Hopefully we can maybe speak soon, so we can get into some more topics with Jeff there. So that is Jeff Simmons. I'm going to quickly get through the super chats. This one from the Warhammer guy says, "Just hope everyone knows, no matter what happens next, we have a top 5 coach and a GM. This is not the Commanders or the Lions. We have such a bright future." That's a really nice, positive message there. Thank you very much for that. This from Matt says, "Thanks for all the hard work, Rob. RB now becomes a pressing problem in the offseason. Interesting to see how we handle Ken Walker now roll on Saturday." Yeah, obviously the Zach Charbonnet news is interesting for the season now, but for the future, because if he is going to be out for several months, look, it's an ACL. Technology's moved along. I would imagine there's a chance he's going to be ready for the start of the season. It is in September. That is quite a long way away. But at the same time, you can't bank on that, and he could have setbacks or anything like that. So they are going to have a plan at running back now. If Ken Walker does depart, and kind of all the noise was that, or the vibes were sort of trending that way, that he might well move on. It's hard to know what they would do. Like, I still think there's a possibility of some trading for somebody. The draft is not very good at running back. So do you look at Devon Achane, somebody like that, and bring him in? And then draft somebody later on, or bring in a veteran if you lose Ken Walker? Or do you just pay Ken Walker and draft somebody or sign somebody anyway and have a bit of extra depth there? It's going to be interesting to see what they do, but you're right, that is definitely going to be a topic moving forwards now. Jayanth says, "Sticky coverage is the bane of the Rams. Trust." I hope so. I hope you're right. Certainly, there was nothing that was preventing the Rams from moving the ball last time, so hopefully they're going to come up with an answer for that. Hawks fan Mattman says, "I think if we can continue our recent improved running game and limit the amount we asked Sam to do, and thus his possible mistakes, we can do well." I agree with that. Thank you very much for the super chat. Giant says, "I don't trust Arroyo to make catches." I mean, look, I think with Arroyo, it's a red shirt year. I'm not sure if they need to keep the tackle on the roster. They're probably not going to activate him for this game, but he's got such an immense amount of talent. It's just whether or not route running's as crisp as it needs to be at this point, whether it needs that bit of extra time. So I wouldn't necessarily be rushing him back for this game. Romeo with the super sticker, much appreciated for that, Romeo. Daniel says NBC's thumbnail for next week was May and Stafford. Yeah, well, you're going to get a lot of that. Like, the Rams are going to get a lot of love this week. You're just going to be prepared for that, I'm afraid. And Take 610 says it's the McBowl. It is. And hopefully the Seahawks will be heading to the Super Bowl afterwards. But, we've been through a lot over the years, like when it was talking about Jamal Adams or Pete Carroll's future, or whether Russell Wilson was going to get traded or not, Jalen Carter, how this blew $50 million in free agency, didn't really sign anybody, whether they were going to re-sign Jadeveon Clowney or not, and whether they're actually going anywhere as a franchise, all of that stuff. Do you know what? It's just good to be sat here knowing the Seahawks are going to play in the NFC Championship game this weekend. So as much as I've kind of talked about being like sleepless nights and everything like that, I am still enjoying it, really. So looking forward to it. I will see if we can maybe do more stuff later in the week, because obviously we only had Jeff for 20, 30 minutes today. So we'll look into doing that. Thank you for everybody who was very patient waiting for this to start. Much appreciated for that, for all the super chats as well. Don't forget Bump and Stacey on Seattle Sports tomorrow. I will post that video, the YouTube video of that, on Seahawks-Blog.com. The Seahawks Collective as well, 5 p.m. Pacific time for that when we go live. Puck Sports on Wednesday, and a whole bunch of other stuff that will be on Seahawks-Blog.com as well. I am going to stream as much as I can while the Seahawks are in the playoffs. So my suggestion would be please to subscribe so you don't miss any of those videos. And also it will help the channel, because it will be great to see the numbers grow while the Seahawks are deep into the playoffs now. So if you could subscribe, that'd be a big help. If you could like the video, that would also be a big help. Go onto your tablets, go onto your phones, and once the stream is finished, if you could press the hype button there, that definitely helps as well. Until next time, I'll speak to you soon. Bye for now.